Hello, welcome. I'm just letting you know that I have an essay out on Gumroad. The essay it's about 50 pages. Yeah, 50 pages. Um, and it's kind of a polemic with a let's say a kind of contractualist anthropology of why humans cooperate and how humans cooperate and what it means to be unified into a civilization. Um, the essay is called "Transcending Fear in the Security Culture," and I think that the kind of way in which we've been told from Hobbes onwards, from basically modernity, our relationship to fear within modernity, and how a civilization responds to fear, I think is being completely perverted. And the essay is largely a kind of a challenging of the contractual framework for civilization, as in mutual self-preservation. It's a challenging of that understanding, of that grounding, and an exploration of, we could say, other forms of understanding what it is to cooperate, what it is to be civilized, what it is to be unified. And it uses fear as like a psychopolitical kind of phenomena, which I think brings out this division quite well. I will read. I'll read the description maybe, and it might help people understand where I'm coming from here. So it's an essay delving into the psychopolitical theme of fear. Civilization once necessitated the overcoming and confronting of fear in order to create stability and unity, relying on cultivating the virtue of courage. However, our postmodern technological civilization and its non-stop states of emergencies has shown to propagandize and utilize fear instead of overcoming it. This essay is ultimately a polemic with Hobbes's maxim of self-preservation and mutual self-interest. It explores the political and technological phenomena which have emerged from this perverted relationship with fear, asking the reader to radically rethink associated issues to do with violence, courage, danger, technology, and security. It draws on sources such as Paul Virilio, G.K. Chesterton, King Gundobald of 5th century. It was a German tribe, 5th century. That will make sense if you read the essay. That part is actually about trial by combat, which is like the least under. Yeah, I'll just let you read it. It's a long story. David Cronenberg's film The Fly, which is a classic. Plato, and much more. It's all sorts of weird influences and sources I'm drawing from here. So I'm trying to describe basically kind of two different forms of cultures. One is one where fear is a phenomena which, in order to create unity, in order to create a civilization, you need to confront, overcome, and maybe even transcend, if we were to really exaggerate that task, fear. And in modernity, I mean, it's in particular kind of like liberal modernity since Hobbes, you see this slow moving trajectory, which we're in today, which I think we're coming to realize the detriment of today, where actually, no, you don't need to overcome fear or transcend fear. Fear is good. Fear motivates us to be more civilized and to cooperate with each other. So you see all the states of emergencies and, like, war on terror and like the pandemic and so on. The pandemic was an absolutely fantastic, I think, kind of case study in what I call the security culture, which is the culture which basically emerges from this relationship with fear, which I'm kind of tracing back to Hobbes. Tracing back to Hobbes in the sense that a relationship to fear from being civilized through mutual self-preservation. the security culture, we saw during the pandemic, for example, the fact that suddenly we're all brought to life from our kind of individualistic kind of personal worlds. We're all brought into some sort of like vibrant civic energy. But at no point in any of this was the task of actually confronting or overcoming fear posited. In fact, if you posited that it might be a necessity, particularly in the early stage of the lockdown, that dealing with something that's dangerous and harmful is just a necessity of human life, and especially human political life. You were seen as a kook. You were seen as backward, crazy, bigoted, crazy person. This is exactly what I'm talking about. This turn in the fear, in this sort of transition in the psychopolitics of fear. Instead, fear is a motivating force. It motivates us. It can be used to motivate us for behavioral management, for social engineering, for like our only understanding of human cooperation and human civic civic duty and so on is increasingly motivated by fear. And guilt as well, but this isn't an essay about guilt, so I'll leave that out for now. But also guilt. But so you see this transition, and the essay was somewhat inspired also just by conversations I was having with different people on YouTube. One chapter, or one, it's not really chapters. There's just sections because it's all one essay. It's like 50 pages, but there's different kind of sections in the essays, in the essay. And one was with James Simkin, who does work on drone strikes and kind of phenomena of drone strikes, and the kind of psychological, phenomenological impact and so on that they have, the political impact that they have and so on. So drone strikes are a good example of, war without the need to overcome and confront fear, because it's very safe. It's war made safe. So the security culture has this kind of perverse disposition to it, to make everything safer and more distant and more hygienic, make death more hygienic, more rational. I was at a funeral during the pandemic, and people were wearing masks, and not just inside where we had to legally. We were told we had to, even outside, and so on. People were still, even when the coffin was being moved and so on, people were following the coffin, buying the coffin on the road and so on. People were wearing masks. Like, it's this making everything more hygienic and more distant and so on. And we see this as a kind of as like a sign of being higher, of being more progressive, of being. No, I don't even mean progressive in the political sense. I just mean progressive in the sense of being more civilized, being at a higher point of social evolution and so on. We actually see, like, the more enslaved to fear we are, the higher we are as a civilization. This is a really perverse relationship which we've developed. So I refer to different chapters, different sections, kind of goes over different phenomena. One section goes over trial by combat, which I thought was interesting, which is the whole King Gundobald 5th century reformer who brought back trial by combat after he was advised to get rid of it, because he thought that it was the only way you could tell if people were telling the truth or not. And I kind of explore this in without being like moralistic about it. I actually just explore this and be like, well, maybe there's some truth to it. So one section deals with David Cronenberg's film The Fly, because Hobbes has a kind of zoological understanding of humans as being of trying to civilize humans and so on, and in The Fly we see a man and an insect becoming merged. So we're seeing all of these strange zoological perversions of humans as no longer being higher, but being not having the task of having to be higher, but being more manageable, like zoo animals and so on and so forth. All these different themes kind of sound all crazy and different, but they all fit in together and kind of make sense. One last thing before I finish up, there's a good quote by G.K. Chesterton, which kind of motivated a lot of the uh, kind of understanding of this essay and what's gone wrong. I'm actually going to get the quote and just read it. One second, I just need to find it. Okay, so here's a quote from G.K. Chesterton, which I think kind of is playing into the same understanding. There's something went wrong in our we could say our kind of like our anthropology of human unity and human cooperation. Something went really wrong with the contractual theorists and the contractual morality, which birthed liberalism and birthed a lot of the kind of understanding of modernity in general in a lot of ways. So here's a quote. He says, "Insofar as they meant," and by them they mean the contractual theorists, insofar as they meant that there is at the back of all historic government an idea of content and cooperation, they were demonstrably right. But they were really wrong insofar as they suggested that men had ever aimed at order or ethics directly by a conscious exchange of interests. Morality did not begin with one man saying to another, "I will not hit you if you do not hit me." There is no trace of such a transaction. There is a trace of both men having said, "We must not hit each other in the holy place." They gained their morality by guarding their religion. They did not cultivate courage. They fought for their shrine, and they found they had become courageous. End quote. So this is a really interesting kind of attack on the contractual morality. And it's kind of ultimately in a different way what I'm also trying to do in this essay, which is to try get us to rethink what it actually means to cooperate and how the kind of rational liberal model, which is then led, I think, in a large way to a dependence and a reliance on fear instead of the task of overcoming fear, a reliance on fear to get us to behave better and to get us to behave more civilized, to get us to behave more cooperatively and rational and so on. This has been actually quite detrimental, and this sort of leads to a state of affairs where we cooperate on some kind of economic level. We might even live within a physically within a shared geographic boundary and so on, but symbolically we're not actually unified. We're not actually a civilization in the traditional sense. And I really wanted to explore how different relationships which have developed to fear and the necessity of courage as a virtue, as a task which civilizations have to go about, which we've completely abandoned, are necessary for us to actually say we are in any way even minimally unified. So yeah, that's basically just a little rundown of what the essay is about. There's a good bit about Plato as well in there, and so on. So that's it. I'll leave a link in the description to anyone who wants to get it, and see you.